Hi guys, welcome back to Sports with Mono and Mono. It's June 27th, 2020, and crazy things still going on, but we're back with the show, and we got a lot to talk about. I'm here with my partner Steve, of course, who is,
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the show. Wasn't it a great U.S. Open on Father's Day?
Kind of missed that.
Oh,
didn't
my
we?
God. The only reason I bring it up because it really hit home. Father's Day, U.S. Open. That was a tough pill to swallow.
Yeah, standard Father's Day, final round. It was awesome to watch.
Even though they will play the U.S. Open at a later date this year, again, that was my point.
Yep. And you know what? One of my favorite ones was the Corey Pavin, that shot he hit in, I think it was Olympic Club or Pebble Beach. It was out west. And he hit this, second shot and reached the green. It was awesome. Seen a lot of good highlights of the Beth Page, Tiger Woods route, and of course his blowout win at the U.S. Open at Pebble Beach, which was probably never going to be matched.
Right. So as a segue, I wanted to lead up to Phil Mickelson. So Phil is in contention on this week's golf tournament, and
Turned 50?
He turned 50. And you know what? He just shot the lowest round of a 50-year-old in 20 years. And he's just going to crush that senior tour if he decides to do it. He'll play both, obviously. But the reason I bring him up is the U.S. Open, obviously, is missing from his resume. And he's had so many runner-ups and things like that.
You don't think it's possible, though, do you?
I do think it's possible.
Do you?
I don't think it's impossible.
Okay.
Maybe is a better way to say it.
All right.
But that's it. So here we are. It's apparently we're going to have sports in a matter of a couple weeks with training camps and things like that. But
and we're going to talk about each one because I wanted to throw this out to you. And then, listen, first and foremost, our first segment sponsored by Coriano Trucking of Haverstraw, New York. And as we said, loyal sponsor of the show and so forth. But we got a lot to get to. And let's talk about it. Let's go sport by sport. Baseball, 60-game season. I'm saying, I'm just not buying it. I'm on the boo side as well.
Oh God, big time.
It's a tournament. It's like the College World Series.
It is. So, I mean, if some team is crowned World Series champion, that's multiple asterisks.
Yep.
I'm not really enthused about it, to be honest. I also think Major League Baseball and the Players Association dragged this out way too long, made it overcomplicated. And 60 games is, like you said, it's a tournament. It's like a softball season or something like that. And anybody can win it.
Yeah, 60 games and for a baseball season just doesn't seem. I would have just packed it in and say we'll do it again next year. 162 games is what makes baseball unique.
Right. So Caesar Sportsbook came out with the over/under on total wins and things like that. So the Dodgers, they're projected over/under. What do you think? 37 wins.
Really?
Over/under.
Over.
Okay.
Over.
Yankees 36.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to go team by team. The only reason I bring that
Well,
up...
they're the favorites.
Well, that's the only reason I bring it up is they were favorites before the season. They're the favorites now. However, a 60-game tournament with few exceptions of really crappy teams.
And what's the Cy Young?
Anybody can win this.
And the Cy Young Award winner will be 4-1, I guess, right? Something like that. But,
yeah, whatever. You know, it's just going to be...
But it's happening. Listen, and... I'm on record as saying I think 60 games is way too short for the season. The other sports, and we'll get to one by one, but baseball's happening. And you're right, it was ugly. It was ugly the whole way. And you said, does money count? Yeah, money matters.
Well, that's what it's about. And so they're going to report, I think, in about a week.
Yep.
So Major League Baseball, am I enthused? No. I'm really, to be honest, I'm not. I'm just not.
I can't say I don't want to watch a baseball game.
I'm not saying that. I'm just saying I'm not going to have the same vigor and passion that I typically would have.
That's why I was thumbs down on the whole season being started at 60 games.
Right.
So, but I was, Steve and I were talking about some highlights I saw before, which was, this a lot of baseball fans who know baseball. This was the 1970 World Series, Baltimore Orioles against Sparky Anderson, and basically it was the Big Red Machine. Not the same thing.
It was the beginning.
That Tony Perez was actually playing third base in that game.
Right. It was the beginning of the Big Red Machine, and by the time they hit their peak in 75, 76, to your point, Tony Perez is playing 5 years earlier at third base. Obviously, we know him as a Hall of Fame first baseman.
Lee May was playing first base in the 1970
That's a good call.
World
That's a
Series.
good name for our older fans. That Lee May, absolutely.
Brother of Carlos, of course.
Correct.
Which, we remember him.
And Lee, if I remember correctly, had a bat twitch, didn't he? I think he would stand there and wiggle the bat.
He was a wiggler.
He was a wiggler.
I would say Joe Morgan had a bat twitch.
Lee May's not a Hall of Famer, but Lee May had a very, very serviceable Major League career.
Yes, he did. Absolutely. But it was awesome to see Clay Carroll. Clay Carroll was one of our Stratomatic pitchers that we used to.
No doubt. Cincinnati Reds.
Yep.
You bet.
But it was great to see that. But baseball's coming back. And yeah, listen, will I watch it? Of course. I mean, we watch baseball. So baseball's coming back. Let's move on to the NFL. That's happening, right? It's happening. It looks like all systems are go, and football's going to happen. And
everything is starting to fall into place. However, we have to mention the elephant in the room. And again, Florida and the southern United States, it's spiking down there.
It is spiking.
But people are not dying because I think they're younger. That's athletes. Even Clemson is back in the news today. There's even more players. They're up to like 37 now. I think they were at 21 about a week ago.
Yeah.
And it's all throughout the South, is my point. So the only
It just took a while for it to get there.
But the only uncontrollable force is we can plan and expect the NFL, the Major League Baseball, the NBA, and NHL to all start on their scheduled time, but we still have this unknown factor that this stuff can shut down at any point.
Yeah, and it's kind of, us on the East Coast, we've been through this, right? We had the wave at its peak, and we live in the tri-state area, and it was tough, and we said, oh, look, California and the South and everybody else got spared, and now it's just moved on over. Like
but my point is, Florida's affected, and that's where the NBA is convening. And
I wanted to talk about that because, yes, you're right. I mean, they planned on the NBA starting the season in Florida because Florida was kind of spared the wrath, and now it's peaking. And is there a possibility this doesn't happen?
Yeah.
Yeah, it is.
I mean, Adam Silver's doing a great job, but if he gets a call from the governor of Florida, who got a call from the president of the United States, well, the NBA shutting down. That's all.
I am least enthused about the NBA coming back because
what I know about you, gee, what a leap that is.
I know, but how many games are they talking about in the NBA? I mean,
they're going to play
kind of a crazy system.
They're playing a combined 88 games between the teams that are left. It's like this play-in tournament.
But is that 88 games before this playoff
combined
scenario?
Yeah, like an 88 game, not each team's playing 88 combined.
The sum total of the teams will play 88 games and then go to the playoffs.
Right. And then they're going to start, I believe, August 1st, something along those lines. The Lakers are playing the Clippers and this, that, and the other thing. So I made a statement earlier today. Who do you like in the NBA? I'm like, okay, yeah, they're going to play the playoff games. It's either going to be the Lakers or the Clippers
or the Bucks
or the Bucks or the Celtics.
Right.
And I said it'll be the Bucks. I said Bucks Lakers is what I'm calling.
Okay.
Right.
But that's happening, right? It's happening down in Florida.
Again, if there's no interruption due to Corona, yeah, it's happening.
I mean, what could be an interruption? I mean, it's spiking like crazy
I'm just saying
in Florida. I'm not debating you. I'm just making a general statement. Like, they got this thing, and I know what a big fan of Adam Silver you are, and I'm saying, yeah, he's done a pretty good job. But I don't think he's done, obviously Major League Baseball dropped the ball. NFL seems to be doing it right in the NHL, and I want to talk about the NHL in a little bit because that's coming back too.
Right, they're down to actually a couple hubs that the NHL's talking about. So they've been looking at multiple cities. Vancouver just got eliminated. My guess is Vegas would probably be the venue.
You think? Yeah.
I would think so.
Okay.
Toronto, is another possibility. However, the travel restrictions and you got Trudeau as the prime minister there.
And those are all the factors. This,
Yeah,
you know, the
and
foreign
it's actually going to
players
affect the
coming back.
Toronto Blue Jays too. The Blue Jays are actually contemplating where they're going to play. And if I remember correctly, I think they do have a minor league affiliate in Buffalo. But the point is, with the travel restrictions, and if somebody tests positive and that type of thing, then you got a 14-day quarantine, all this stuff.
Don't tell me they're going to play the games in Buffalo where they filmed The Natural, which is where they did.
That would be my
And I can't remember. No, the stadium can't possibly be there. I think I don't remember the name of it, but that's where they filmed The Natural. But that's coming back too.
right.
And listen, before we move off, you know, we want to talk about some hockey for a little bit. And you know, in the past shows, we talked about how we watched some of the great, you know, the Rangers win the Stanley Cup again, and Edmonton's dynasty, and watching the Islanders, and it was awesome to see. So there was the NHL Hall of Fame election, and I want to talk about that with you because these are people that we know, and let's go through them one at a time. Hall of Famer, Steve and I, and Mono always say yay or nay, right? When you talk Hall of Fame, say the name, and if you have to think about it, then
War
it's not a done
Memorial
deal.
Stadium.
In Buffalo. Right, you got it. Doing his research while I'm trying to move on to hockey here.
Nah, but it was just killing me because I was trying to pull it out
I
myself.
should have got it.
Nah, but I've been listening on the hockey thing. I'd love to talk about. We're talking a little Hall of Fame.
Yep.
So I think the number one guy in the class would definitely be Jerome Iginla.
And I want to talk about that because, you know, he's not known like a Gretzky and type thing and then Yzerman and these 500 goal scorers. But we talked about it. This guy wasn't a compiler. He was a stud.
A
But
great
we said
hockey player.
we never got to see him that night. What we see him twice?
I would compare Jaromir Jagr to Iginla in body type and things like that, and their kind of style. No, Jagr obviously is more skilled.
But when we
Iginla
bring up
was
his
a
name,
big body, you know, skilled, obviously, but not to the level
but
of
when
Jagr.
we bring up his name, you go, absolutely.
So-
Right? 500 goal scorer.
Not 500, 600. 625 goals for Iginla.
Yeah.
1,300 plus points. Absolute bona fide Hall of Famer. Played a
Agreed.
ton of hockey and always carried himself with class. I think he's either the third or the fourth African American to be inducted into the NHL Hall.
And he was a tough character.
I'm going to
too,
say
boy.
he's the third.
But he dropped his gloves.
He was a
here
big
and
guy.
there, too.
He was a big guy, and he was a freight train. So,
Yeah.
well done.
But we said, I saw that. I said, absolutely. I mean, he finished his career with a couple of different teams, but he made the majority of his things with the Flames, right?
There's no
I mean,
question.
Right.
So the next guy, I think, for me, Kevin Lowe.
Tell me your thought on it, because I have a thought on it too. Can't deny he's got 6 Stanley Cups.
I raised an eyebrow that it's taken 20 years for him to get into the Hall of Fame.
Okay.
Now, do you consider him? He was a defenseman's defenseman.
No
That's
question.
what Kevin Lowe did.
Yep.
His leadership, character, everything. Obviously, we had the privilege. He came to the Rangers and was part of the '94 Stanley Cup team.
Yep.
But to your point, he's got 6 cups. Kevin Lowe. So my point about raising my eyebrow is more, why did it take 20 years, or does he just fall short? To me, Kevin Lowe, I have no problem.
And
going
why
to
does
the
he
Hall of
fall
Fame.
short? Because his numbers are low. But he played on Gretzky with Gretzky and Messier and Curry and Anderson and those teams. So his job wasn't to score points. His job was to get the puck up the ice and feed it to
prevent
these
goals.
guys.
And prevent goals.
And he did it. And you know what, Steve? I thought about it when I looked at his numbers. I said, okay, 6 Stanley Cups, but look at the teams he played for. I don't have a problem with him at all.
I don't. Next, Marian Hossa.
Okay. We talked before, or at least I said, you know, Jerome Iginla is not well known like Marian Hossa. You know, those two type of players. He's a 500 goal scorer too.
He is a 525 goal scorer.
Played with probably 5 or 6 teams. But
remember, maybe.
majority of his goals, I remember him as
The
a player.
Avalanche and the Blackhawks are the two teams that he absolutely.
No, I'm going to
Killed it,
say
right?
the Senators. That's kind of where he made his mark. I bet he's probably the all-time Senators guy with goals. I think that's where he made his mark. And he did win 3 Stanley Cups, or two, at least 2 with the Blackhawks. But I think he scored the majority of his goals with the Senators.
It could be wrong.
You know. But let's get back to the defenseman, because this
You're
is...
right, Senators.
Yeah, he played a long time for them.
Didn't he play, no, huh?
Philadelphia he played with.
Thought he was Avalanche. His brother?
No, he won 2 cups at least with the Blackhawks.
I get
no
it.
question.
I get that.
And the Flyers, you know, the end of his career.
You're right, Senators.
Yep.
My bad.
But here's another guy, and we're talking about defenseman who was not a numbers guy, but when we watched him, we said, this guy's a good defenseman, Doug Wilson.
Yeah, he's actually won the Norris Trophy in 81, 82. He is literally the Blackhawks' all-time leader in everything defense, for the most part. Goals, shots, etc.
I think he played a long time with the Sharks, too, at the end of his career.
Yeah, and then he became the general manager.
But if you look at Doug Wilson's numbers, you'd say, you know, I don't know. You know, I mean, you can't compare it to Leach, because Leach was an offensive defenseman, right? That's why Brian Leach is in the Hall of Fame. I don't have a problem with Doug Wilson. But I'm sitting here going, wait a minute. He's been retired for 20 years, and now they're looking at Doug Wilson and Kevin Lowe?
Pretty much.
But when you look at Hall of Famer, and Steve, you and I are very, very diligent in our Hall of Fame picks. When you talk about defensemen in the NHL, you think Bobby Orr, right? You think Paul Coffey. You think these guys that...
Well, Bobby Orr is the standard bearer.
Okay, but that's the Hall of Fame.
Of course, I get
Right?
it.
Is Doug Wilson,
Babe
Kevin Lowe,
Ruth,
and the
Bobby Orr.
Well,
Babe Ruth, Bobby Orr.
I know, it gets lost. But here's one other one.
But congratulations to all of them, yeah. And then you're going to lead up to the female girl
Right.
up in Canada. Go.
Kim St. Pierre.
Sure.
Who, if you look at her resume, 3-time gold medal winning goalie for the Canadian team.
Ken Dryden stuff.
Oh my God!
Meaning skill-wise.
What a resume!
Oh, absolutely.
No problem at all. Welcome to the Hall of Fame.
Well deserving.
Absolutely. Kim St. Pierre.
So we're looking forward to hockey. The thing about hockey in the shortened season is hockey, I think, translates better, right? Because it's, you kind of think of Olympic, you kind of think of tournaments, worldwide tournaments, things like that. Hockey,
Right.
Final Four, Frozen Four, that type of thing.
Yeah.
So I think the hockey in a shortened season
Can work.
Yeah,
Can work.
will be exciting.
I agree.
And NBA, obviously, it's new. Major League Baseball, new.
Yep.
And, as we talked about the NFL, depending, if everything is, the air is clear, then college football and NFL should start on time.
Drop the puck, as they say. Right?
But they're also talking about spectators, so there's 2 things I wanted to bring up, which I think will be both in September, is the Kentucky Derby is going to have people.
Yeah.
Not a full capacity, probably half.
Right.
Which would be still a hell of a lot of people.
And for me and my fan, the Kentucky Derby is the next in the Triple Crown race, right? And the Preakness is going in the Bizarro race.
In the Bizarro World Triple Crown?
Yep. But listen, looking forward to that. There's going to be people. And listen, we talked about the Belmont Stakes. That was a pretty good race.
Yeah.
Let's throw it out there.
But the other big venue, I think, holds the most of any sporting event, I would think, is the Indianapolis 500. I think it actually holds 250,000 people.
It holds over 200.
Right?
Yep.
Anyhow, so they're talking about half capacity, even half capacity, 100,000 people milling about. And hopefully, come September, that it's not an issue. And everything goes normal, and everything goes... No, really. So hopefully...
I'm not laughing at that. There's
so Memorial Day next year, the Indianapolis 500 goes off as planned, and there's 250,000 people in the stands. And that would mean society would...
We would hope a year from now that
be
that's
back
going
to
be
somewhat
the case.
normalcy.
You're absolutely right. But give kudos to somebody. One of our fans had a good line that the fact that the Belmont was run the first leg of the Triple Crown, and I think we know this guy very well. Our brother, he said, doesn't seem the same. When's the Indianapolis 350? That was
absolutely.
a great line. we killed over that.
There's no question.
Kudos there, you know.
So
the Mr. Ed reference in the Belmont, which I disagree because I had "'Tis the Law" and he won the race.
That's right.
You know?
However, you and I did debate about the legitimacy of this year's Triple Crown.
Yep.
Your position is it's a Triple Crown, and these are the circumstances. My position is it's not the Triple Crown because of the circumstances.
I think
that's
for somehow you misinterpreted. I'm on the same page as you. Without the Derby and then the Preakness and then the Belmont, it's not the Triple Crown,
understand
but it's
that.
happening. Listen, there's some other couple sports, other ones we want to touch base on, and first I want to mention that this segment's sponsored by Lynch Motors of Manchester, Connecticut. Loyal sponsor of the show. Hope they're doing well up there and so forth.
correct.
So look, one of the controversies about tennis is a coming back kind of thing. The whole Novak Djokovic putting on a party in Croatia, and what happened? Got corona.
Didn't wear his mask.
I know, but is that what it's coming to? Are they going to be wearing masks? At the
Under
US
Armour
Open?
couldn't supply a mask, or Adidas, or head tennis rackets.
Right. So that's a sport that this is kind of a setback for them, right? And I'd love to see tennis. We're going to see the U.S. Open in front of an empty stadium.
Federer shut it down for the year too.
Right. Claiming it was an injury, but I think there's probably more to it.
He's Roger Federer. He can claim anything.
And when we're talking about tennis, we're talking about Nadal, we're talking about Djokovic, we're talking about Federer. Those are the marquee guys.
We're not talking about Aaron Crickstein,
right?
And, Roscoe Tanner,
right? Who had the fastest serve in his day? I remember that. But I watched the highlight of the famous John McEnroe "You cannot be serious" line. It was so funny, using a wooden racket. I mean, look how long ago that was, Johnny McEnroe.
Right. But you and I, that's all we knew back then.
It was awesome.
Yeah, but I'm glad you brought up John McEnroe. What are your thoughts on John McEnroe? And go back to the first time he came on the scene to. Obviously, he jumped the shark at some point.
I thought he was over the top and disrespectful as a player, but you can't deny his record. He beat Borg, he beat Lendl. He won. He beat Connors. He was that good.
Right.
And we get a lot of chuckles out of it, but from a sportsmanship perspective, wow, this is a little.
Listen, Johnny Mac is obviously one of the greatest tennis players of all time.
And he's a great analyst.
He is. Listen, he's a good guy. He hangs with the Stones, man. He goes to the Stones.
He's a rocker, like the Bacon Brothers kind of thing, right?
But my point is, I'm just reflecting back when he was the Brat, I guess is his nickname, right? Or something at that point.
Okay.
But watching this was
funny. It was funny.
For me, no. It was actually conflicting because he hit it on the head. He was being disrespectful to the ref. And I get you get to the point. But
Jimmy Connors did it
But
also.
isn't tennis funny how you can sit there and berate and scream on anything you want? You don't throw an F-bomb. You could be doing the Jerry Lewis
because it's supposed to be
telethon.
It's a gentleman's game.
I get it.
You can't do that.
I get it.
But I must say, I thought his success overrid his berating.
Oh, absolutely. I agree.
Official.
John McEnroe was a great tennis.
And look, we saw how it's changing. With Serena Williams was berating the linesman at the U.S. Open, and of course, almost we don't know, but
you got some ego. Where do you get the ego?
But when you look at Johnny Mac and his record and the epic battles with Connors and Borg and Lendl, it was awesome, and his record stands alone.
And that's why that era is so great, because they were all great.
Yep.
They really were.
And I'm not sure we're going to see that, because I think one of the sports in more ways than others, the audience plays a pivotal role in it, doesn't it? I mean, we see Wimbledon and the U.S. Open, how the whole crowd rallied for Connors when he was on his last leg and so forth, and came up short. But an empty stadium at the U.S. Open, it's going to happen, but the U.S. Open is the U.S. Open.
Well, you'll be able to hear the grunts better.
Yeah, I thought they were supposed to regulate that a little bit more.
It was the most famous grunter. Monica Seles, I think. Was it her or Tracy Orr? I think it was Monica Seles was the...
Possibly, yeah.
I think it was Monica.
Yeah, but they all do it now.
Oh, I know.
They all do it now.
But I think Monica was...
But listen, I miss tennis just as much as I miss baseball. Like I said, right? I love watching Roger Federer, Djokovic, and Nadal play.
I can't say the same. I haven't been... I haven't had the passion for tennis since since the era actually we just talked about. But listen, Pete Sampras was great. That era,
it was awesome.
Becker and Lendl, and it was great tennis. I get it. And
you know what?
Agassi and on and on.
One of our listeners, Mike Garvey from Naples, he's a big, and his whole family was a big tennis. And
Did I say I'm not passionate about tennis? Mike, I just mean...
But we know what you're talking about. But when you talk about epic battles, when you're talking about McEnroe and Connors and Borg, and it was so awesome to see. We never missed it.
Yeah.
We never missed it.
But even today, with Djokovic and Federer and Nadal, there's been really real good matches. Thrillers. The 5-set.
I'm glad you just brought Pete Sampras up, because he seemed to have gotten lost in the past 20 years.
But that's
Pete Sampras. Up Boris Becker. I mean, holy crap.
Pete Sampras could care less if anybody mentions his name in public again. Pete Sampras is one of the coolest guys.
And he's got 18 majors.
Totally.
And, his records.
Pete Sampras wants to go golf probably and take a nap during the afternoon and eat lobster tails.
He's kept a low profile since his heyday.
Great guy. I'm glad.
Great player.
Hall of Fame, one of the all-time greats, Pete Sampras.
So listen, when we talked about tennis, let's talk about golf, because golf is again underway. We've seen some couple of tournaments, but now there's a COVID threat looming over with Brooks Koepka and so forth. And,
Nick Watney.
But we can't deny it. So is this going to stop the PGA Tour from happening? I don't think so.
No, they're playing right now.
But when you're going to miss guys, you want to see the guys. You want to see Koepka, and you want to see McIlroy, and you want to see Mickelson, like you brought up before. Right. Can he challenge these young guns and so forth? I'm missing it, and I'm so glad you brought it up that Father's Day we weren't watching the final round of the U.S. Open. So that's going to happen, though. But, like I said, this cloud of COVID is starting to happen when it affects a guy like Brooks Koepka, who's one of the marquee guys in the game. It matters. It matters.
But that's the point, is these guys can... I mean, we're talking top athletes with...
the best in their sport.
My point is they get corona. They got every amenity to prevent this, right?
And they're still getting it.
That's a little alarming to me.
Exactly.
I just actually thought about that.
Yep.
Right? Mr. Koepka cannot see you now.
Right. He's quarantined.
Right.
In the clubhouse.
Right.
At the 19th hole.
Totally. And then when he's home, his house is probably like Buckingham Palace. Right? No, you want to go down a mile on your right and make a right to that driveway.
Oh, you want to be quarantined. Golf is the sport to be quarantined, because you get the 19th hole.
Oh, totally.
It's awesome. Yeah. But look, there's these young kids. Daniel Berger won a couple weeks ago and so forth. So it's...
Mr. Berger.
Daniel Berger.
Seinfeld reference, folks. Mr. Berg.
But we're hoping all of this stuff comes back. I mean, we're hoping it all comes back. But again, like I said, I'm less enthused about... I'm more concerned about... You and I talked about this, Steve. Your son is a freshman at a prominent high school. Is that season going to happen? Is college football going to happen?
We don't know.
And we talk about it week after week, and we still don't know.
Right, and I'll make this statement. I've been thinking about it because, again, my son just graduated 8th grade, and I shouted out to him last week.
Yep.
However, the current seniors... Again, my son's in 8th grade, to a high school senior, to a college senior.
Yep.
It's gone. It's like you can't get it back, and I feel so terrible for him.
I do too.
So I'm actually praying that this corona crap dissipates enough that this current new crop, because I would hate to see 2 years of seniors lose
Agreed.
that.
Exactly, because we know how much it meant to us, and you're right. You were only 15 and 16 and 17 once, right?
And then when you're 15, 16, and 17, you think you're going to be 15, 16, and 17 for the rest of your life for a period of time or
and
whatever.
this you can't get back. But I'm hoping the season gets underway because you and I was excited to see my nephew play his football season at a really cool school, and Steve and I, we mentioned our beloved St. Joe's, week after week, one of the top high school football programs, not in the Northeast, in the nation.
Not in the nation, but definitely
but they're up there
within our area.
It's a national type thing,
Correct.
and that may not happen. So it's crazy, and you're right. I feel bad for these kids. I actually forgot about the seniors because if it doesn't happen for them, you never get that back,
No, and that's my fear because I mentioned this kid previously on the show, Charles DePrima at Ramapo High School. Now my son is going to go there, but Charles is entering his senior year, and so it hits home to me because I coached Charles, and I know what a great kid he is. He made he was the top quarterback in North Jersey last year, but for a kid like that. And again, across the country, I'm not just singling him out.
Exactly. We're talking about the whole high school football program.
I would be very...
well, let's talk about that, Charles, for a second, see. So, was he on the radar? Where's he going to go to college after this? He was that prominent of a player. So.
I think Charles is an Ivy quarterback or, 1AA. I don't do the FCB minus times pi.
So this is
subdivision league,
right? But this isn't going to eliminate him from getting a scholarship to where he was going to go. He was on the radar before, right?
No, because I think it would actually enhance him because, like I said, he was all North Jersey. Ramapo went 13-0. They won the state championship. He's the team leader.
But there's other kids that this could impact. That their senior year was their, this is who I am and this is what I do.
There's so many kids across the country that have been working their ass off. And actually, I mentioned this. Brian, you remember the wrestler I told you about, Brian Giacco? The story about how hard he worked?
Yep.
And he finally made it to his senior year.
Yep.
And thank God the corona hit after because he wouldn't have had the moment that he had. Exactly. He became the New York State champion, man. Wrestler. And again, to remind the audience, this is a kid that was chubby and self-conscious and was kind of a loner, and he decided at a young age, and when I tell you he committed and he got to that senior and he had this moment. It's my point. This would not happen to another Brian, and it didn't happen, for baseball and softball and every spring.
And there's
got
to be tens of thousands of stories just like paralleling
that is
right?
my That's what hits home to me.
Yep. So you're right. This is across the country. We're from the Northeast, so we follow it a little bit more closely. But think of how many quality players there are in California and Texas and Louisiana, and so across the nation.
Right.
But again, I told you we talked about it a few weeks ago. Driving by the baseball field where you would think kids would be playing baseball and they're not playing baseball.
Now. What's great too. I'm glad you brought that up. Because I live right, I could walk there in 15 seconds if I wanted to. Right,
pitching wedge to the.
But you know what? I actually drove by yesterday the fields, and guess what I saw? I saw the
couple of guys out with their kids.
You saw games? Not games. They're getting out.
Okay.
It's their first practices, and I'm talking to T-ballers and stuff like that. But the point is,
they're getting out.
They're getting out,
Good.
And that's another positive sign.
Yep. So, I mean, we keep talking about this from a sports perspective and so forth, and we miss it. But there's a lot more going on behind the scenes. Like I said, the impact that it's had across the board, and your son in particular, it's a perfect example of what's happened, and can't get this back. Like I said, he missed his prom, this, that, and the other thing. We hope it gets back.
Now, the good news in all this is I'm getting my Philadelphia 8th grade trip money back, which is
standard Liberty Bell cost $400 for your son to see the Liberty Bell.
Not 400.
Yeah. So listen, I mean, again, we're hoping that this, passes and we get back to some sense of normalcy, and it's crazy.
So I'd like to segue to something real quick.
Go ahead.
So I woke up this morning and again, this is George Floyd. It's the social justice stuff. It's an effect of it, right? Oregon and Oregon State.
The Civil War, as they called it, right?
They called it.
I'm glad you actually.
So
I was going to bring that up.
Brought it up. So I heard this morning, and I said, "There's no turning back.
No.
There is going to be nothing off limit or off debate of what should be." And I'm of the volition. It's a case by case basis here, but. When I read,
It's just a football game
I'm
between
being honest.
Oregon and Oregon State. It was known as the Civil War,
and
it meant
it
something
has
to the
everything
players.
to do with Oregon State, every sport,
Yeah.
really.
Yep.
But it was the Civil War.
Yep.
So I just wanted to bring that up and let the audience, I'd love to hear your thoughts about it. Sports, send us an email, sportswithmonoandmono@gmail.com.
Yeah.
I'm just bringing it up because when I
But this is kind of similar to the Dixie Chicks changing their name to now just the Chicks, because Dixie itself is offensive. The Civil War itself is offensive. I don't know.
Well,
I'm not sure. But
well, to finish my point is I'm having my coffee, and I'm just being honest. My first reaction was, "You got to be kidding me." My second reaction is, this is the way we are now in society.
Yep.
And again, I was just throwing that out there of my thought process. So
because when we're talking about what's going on and all these things, history is history. It happened. Do we dismiss it? Can we move on? Yeah. But we're changing the name of a game. It's a football game.
But again, my point is that it's going to be systemic throughout society, and
Yep.
and I'm not disagreeing. I'm not agreeing. I'm
It
just
has nothing to
saying
do with that.
it made me think.
But you can't
It's
say
really
the
what I
term
wanted
Civil
to say.
War is offensive. It was one of the most pivotal points in this country's history, and we've moved on, and maybe not as far as people want.
I would think
know.
the Civil War would be because half the country was in favor of slavery, right? So the term Civil War.
But Oregon State is a football game. I mean, it's a football game.
I understand, but now it's done.
Yeah. But listen, we would love, and Steve just brought it up, but please send us an email, give us some comments on your thoughts. We'd love to talk about it because
And the reason I bring it
happening.
up, the reason I bring that up is because I'm going to lead to the next thing.
go ahead.
The Redskins, the Chiefs, the Indians,
The
the
Rangers.
Texas Rangers,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
I'm not saying they're going to change their name, but I'm telling you there's going to be a ton of pressure too, which there always has been. And there's debate back and forth on it, and I get both sides.
And it's happening at
But we're historians.
And it's happening at every level.
Every
There's
level.
local high schools around here that are nicknamed, the Pascack Valley, Pascack Hills. They're the Cowboys and the Indians. Their names are changing. Okay, it's happening. It's not just.
Remember you and I
NFL.
played Cowboys and Indians? Hey, Jim, bang, bang. Whoa, 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 whoa. We can assure the audience that never happened.
Of course not, but it's a point, and we're not making light of it at all.
Absolutely not.
But changing the name of a football team, I don't know.
But my point is, does that brand us? Because we played Cowboys and Indians. Whoa, 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 whoa. Right?
Well, listen,
It's just thought. That's all I'm saying.
and we
Does
talk
it get
about
to a level like
because
that?
we are both historians. We're avid readers of historical figures and events and so forth, and we
Right.
just can't dismiss.
And there's circumstances in that
Yep.
era that it's just the way it was.
Yep.
Right?
So listen, there's so much going on, and before we move on to our notable passing, Steve, who's our sponsor today?
Well, our sponsor, of course, is Di Filippi's Bakery out of Monticello, New York.
Yep.
And obviously, if you're in the Catskills, the best bakery and cafe. And again, Carmela does the COVID cooking for COVID,
and still taking the 10% discount for mentioning Mono and Mono.
Absolutely.
So.
But I'm also going to double up on this and do my shout out to Carmela, who broke the news that she was going to be a first-time grandmother to a beautiful coming granddaughter.
Yeah.
She is already a grandmother to a 2-year-old.
I'm already
boy.
a member of this club.
Correct. So I know she's thrilled. I'm thrilled. The show is thrilled. Our audience is thrilled. And congratulations on that. So we look forward to the birth of your granddaughter.
And again, the blueberry pie is to die for.
Right.
I guess.
The chicken salad, if you go to the cafe, is.
Oh, I actually have had it. It was quite good, actually.
Yeah, yes, it was.
Got to have it on rye bread, though. Caraway seeds.
She knows that.
So listen, before we wrap up the show, let's talk about some notable passings, because we always bring this up, and not because to be morbid, but because these are figures
to honor. It's not morbid. It's to honor them.
Exactly. So it's not meant to be a dark segment. It's meant to honor, and you're right. Who was the first one you have, Steve?
Well,
let me first preface this. You and I may have missed this. This was brought up by James Walsh, one of our loyal listeners, who brought up Eddie Casco.
Yes, Eddie Casco passed away this week. It was a 10-year Hall of baseball player.
Yep.
Played for multiple teams. Excuse me. Born in Linden, New Jersey. Famous for succeeding Dick Williams as the manager of the Boston Red Sox. He managed for 1 year.
Yeah, I was going to say.
He made an all-star team. However, we're being honest here, right? We'll always tell you we're honest. I never heard of Eddie Casco.
The name rings a bell, but I couldn't give you his resume off the top of my head.
But when our loyal listener, Mr. Walsh, pointed it out, we looked him up, and absolutely deserving of notable passing. So,
absolutely.
R.I.P. Eddie Casco.
And we mentioned he did play for. So this is how far back it goes. The Colt 45s.
Yes,
right?
the predecessors to the Houston Astros.
And outside of the toy cannon, Jimmy Wynn, I'm not sure we would have known how many of the original guys were on that team. But
you are correct, sir.
Eddie Casco.
So I'm going to move to another one. Was Mike McCormick passed away. It was about 2 weeks ago. It was right around showtime, so actually, my fault. I actually had my notes.
Yep.
But Mike McCormick, 16 seasons, Giants, Orioles, Senators, Yankees, Royals.
Made his way around the Major League Baseball.
134 and 128, 3.73 earned run average. Won the Cy Young in 1967. ERA leader in 1960. He was a four-time All-Star.
And to put this into perspective, he won the Cy Young, and I said, when you said the year, I said Juan Marichal, and Juan Marichal, you said never won a
Cy Young.
Cy Young.
Yeah.
That's hard to believe.
Well, he led the majors and victories in the 1960s. Right?
Yeah, known for the Johnny Riseborough incident.
That's correct.
That was.
But Mike McCormick, to finish, his nickname was Mr. 500 because he hit the 500th home run a pitcher hit in Major League Baseball.
Okay.
And he's famous for giving up Henry Aaron's 500th career dinger.
Exactly.
So he was a real good guy and passed away. San Francisco Giants is really where he made his name.
Yeah.
So R.I.P. Mike McCormick.
Okay.
And then we're going to finish with, to us, is, when we saw the name, that hit home.
And
Jim Kick, Miami Dolphins.
New Jersey native, by the way. Lincoln Park, New Jersey. Which I did not know.
I knew. And he went to Boonton High School.
Okay.
And the other alum there is Charlie Weiss. Not that, I'm just saying from a recognizable name. But Jim Keck went to the University of Wyoming.
Yeah.
Two-time All-American, led Wyoming in rushing, blah, blah, blah.
Remember the undefeated Dolphins
And obviously,
team?
number 21, member of the three-headed monster, Zonka, Morris, and Keck.
Yep.
And Larry Zonka was his best friend.
They were.
Yep.
Lifelong buddies.
And Jim Keck, real good football player, great guy, retired, stayed in Dade County.
And I know they were, him and Zonka had a thing, and they were known as Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid.
There's some good pictures of
There's
that.
some great pictures of it. You know?
But he, I think he went into law enforcement, Jim Keck, and had a very great, post-football career and well-respected.
And I looked at his numbers. He had like 2,000-3,000 yards rushing. Played a while, but of course Morris and Zonka got the bulk of the carries and so forth.
I think his best year he had like 768 yards, something like that.
But he also had like 3,000 yards in receiving yards.
I was just going to lead to that.
Yeah.
What I kind of remember about Jim Keck,
Yeah.
coming out of the backfield,
Yep.
catching it, number 21,
Number
boom,
21.
13 yards here, whatever, tough yards. So rest in peace, Jim Keck. I mean, that's a name from our Sunoco book.
You bet. And, I mean, we just talked about it. Don Shula, the patriarch of the undefeated team, and we're going to start seeing this more and more because these guys are in their 70s now. So, yes, he was an awesome player, and we'd be remiss if we didn't bring him up.
Absolutely.
So, but listen, thanks for joining us, everybody, and again, send us your thoughts and comments because it's a crazy time, and we're all excited about getting back to the sports world and so forth. But listen, in the meantime, I could still watch these old highlights. I mean, I'm okay with it.
Never gets old.
But thanks for joining us, everybody. And Steve, like I said, I can't wait. We got things coming up like a Kentucky Derby and so forth. But shout out to one of my guys, Walt Hahn, out in Arkansas, of all places.
Huh.
Big Arkansas football fan who's fallen on hard times. But Walt
You think?
sent us an email last week, and we always bring that up when one of our audience members sends us something.
Wow,
So,
appreciate it, Walt. Thank you very
Walter.
much.
And we'll catch up to you guys next week. And thanks for joining us on this episode of Sports with Mono and Mono.
Mono and...
Be well, everybody. Stay safe.